All right, guys, here we go again. Episode 7 of P&P. So, today's beverage of choice, today's pint, the refreshment of the day, is a Hockley Valley Brewing Classic Lager. This is a beer that is brewed in Orangeville, and it is actually named after Thomas Hockley, who was the first postmaster and namesake of Hockley Valley. So there's a little history lesson for you. Don't say you never learn nothing over at the OHA. So let's give that a try, see how it tastes. That's a very good beer. I enjoy that. It's not as crafty as some of the ones that we've had on the channel, but smooth, very smooth, good beer. Very good. So let's jump right into it. It's been a big week in the hobby. Lots of things going on. Want to take a minute to talk about some of the recent announcements that came out of GW for the Throne of Skulls. I'm sure by now most of you have seen the changes in addition to the Army-specific rules that they're going to enact at that tournament. And there's no other way to put it. It caused a rift, I would say, in the hobby. Not a big one, but a rift nonetheless. With them dropping the beta test for that, it has sort of given us a glimpse of things to come and possible insight into the direction of the game. Response was mixed, obviously. There's a lot of guys that love the game for what it is, myself included. I think the game is terrific, but like anything, it starts to show its age, and you need to update. And I think the SBG team identifies that, and they're trying to give it the much-needed facelift. How you go about doing it without changing the core mechanics, changing things like stat lines, it's going to be tough. So to see them come in with special rules, I know there's some guys that absolutely hate special rules and think that there's already too many in the game. It's hard to fundamentally change a game without changing the core mechanics. So the only way to do it is to add special rules or things of this nature to try to update it and give it a little more flavor and, truth be told, flip the meta on its head. That's one of the things. We've been so long without input into the hobby and changes and updates and things of that nature that really, even being a new player, I can see reading posts and listening to vlogs and things of that nature that it really does become stale. You see the same armies, the same stuff, guys taking 4 units from 4 different factions just to get the cheapest undercosted whatever, and it's cheese. It's pure cheese. Is it good from a competitive standpoint? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. If you're a competitive player, why wouldn't you be doing that? I would say the vast majority of players, though, are fluff players, that still want to play competitively, and I think this allows them to do that. It's going to give them the buffs they need to offset some of the, cheese factor that they're going to come across in a tournament. So I'm interested to see what they do with it, see where the tweaks come from. It's an excellent direction that they're taking. They're putting some serious time and effort into this, and the fact that they're coming to the community to do a beta test and then actually sit down and talk to the players at their input, how it played, what changes need to be made, that's exactly the direction you want game makers and a game company to go. For the longest time, GW always used to say, we don't make games, we make models. And it seems like they're putting a little more attention and detail into the games, and I think that's important, and we need to run with that. So all I would say, in my opinion, is let's be a little more open and accepting of changes, give them a try. Obviously, if they completely imbalance the game and ruin things, there's a time to speak up about it, but to see some of the reactions that took place, particularly on the GBHL side of things, with respect to people being upset about the changes, let's just remember we went through a very long period where there were no updates, no changes, no nothing. I wasn't even playing the game, and I knew that it was sort of, on its last legs. We've had life breathed back into it. Let's run with it and work at it. So, two prime examples for me, at least, in reading those changes. A good one is Rohan and the Eagles. They, to me, are now both a far more competitive force than they were prior to the release of these packs. And I'm speaking loosely, guys, because there's a lot of tournaments that have already come out and said we're not using it. Articon is not going to use it. Nova is not going to use it. Which I understand. You're getting close to your event. The last thing you want to do is flip it on its head and have people who've been play testing for months, trying to get a feel for their army and then have it turned upside down. I completely understand that. Chances are that we're going to see something like this be the direction they go. I think it's a positive, and I look for other venues and tournaments to start taking these rules and running with them. It's my hope. I haven't discussed it with the rest of the OHA guys. The discussion to be had, down the road, but definitely for our tournament, I personally would love to see these rules being used at our tournament. Whether or not they are, that's a discussion for everybody, and everybody in the club's going to chime in, but I don't see a reason not to. It makes everything more competitive. It gives value in bringing a fluff force, something that's based in lore and pushes the game to the next level. So just be open-minded and constructive in your criticisms, and let's work with the SBG team to make this hobby our own. That being said, I think the direction and the future of the hobby is really looking bright. But I think we're going to need to move more and more away from the movies and draw more on the books and the appendices. I think, unfortunately, that cow has been milked, in my personal opinion. The wealth of the SBG game is going to lie and come from the books and the appendices, and I'm sure for a lot of people that is, absolutely the truth and gospel, and then there's going to be some that are going to argue that. I think the movies did an excellent job of making things identifiable for people. So, now I would say a vast majority of the population knows what a hobbit is, knows what a dwarf is, knows what an elf is. They can identify with a rider or Rohan. They can identify the difference between an Uruk-hai and an orc. That is all fundamentally great for the hobby. The reality is, though, is a lot of those just plain moviegoers who enjoyed the films and aren't necessarily Tolkien buffs are not the people playing this game. In my opinion, from what I see and what I hear and what I read, we're all diehard Tolkien fans, and that is where the direction needs to be focused. With the news of GW planning to revisit the Battle of Pelennor Fields and the fall of Osgiliath, there's no perfect time than now to draw on the untapped stories available to them. So I hope that is the direction they go when they plan on revisiting things from the prospect of the books. The films were absolutely brilliant. They did a terrific job, and it was really a brilliant marketing tool to introduce players to the game, something that was going to be familiar to them from the movies. Was it absolutely brilliant for the time? 100%. Has it made it identifiable for everybody now? Absolutely. We've got the models, we've got the base. It's now time to start exploring the stories that are beyond what was shown in the movie or how the movie interpreted the book. Just some examples would be, telling the story of Aragorn or Strider before, when he served with Theoden, or even his time with Denethor. That would be to my mind, a really cool source book and excellent opportunity for some great scenarios and gameplay. So it's stories like that, how Helm's Deep really went down. What was Haldir actually doing at the time of Helm's Deep? Telling those stories so that the people who identify most with them, that's where I'd like to see the fluff, the lore, or the game itself, follow that fluff and that lore. So I'm really hopeful that that's the direction the team's going to take. I would imagine, given the fact that they've said that they're going to revisit Pelennor and Osgiliath, that is most certainly what they're going to do, because even GW did an excellent job in itself of putting things in there that were not in the movies, you know, which is fantastic. You know, the Knights of Dal Amroth, you know, all that side of it that GW covered that the film didn't. I mean, that's an excellent job, but it's time to tell the story and tell it right and do it up properly. So I'm really looking forward to what they do with that. Looking forward to the changes, whether it's going to be to force composition for makeup like we've seen with these special rules for Throne of Skulls. You know, there's so many different directions they can take it, and it's just exciting to not know, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, as much as we've had a stable, steady game for this many years with good mechanics, you know, it's going to be nice to see it sort of flipped on its head and see how players react and how well they adapt to the changes, you know. So maybe instead of seeing the same names at the top of those league standings all the time, you know, you're going to see a change up and things are going to be a little different. So I think that's really going to be key to the future of the hobby, and I can't wait to see how they do it and how they pull it off. So that being said, we're going to move on. See this? All this paper? You gotta write all this stuff out. You see this? See the work that goes into this for you guys? I don't write very well. No, I do this very well though. OHA events. It wouldn't be an episode if I didn't cover off some of the stuff going on. Pretty straightforward, same as last episode, guys. We're in the final day to get your RSVP in for the Battle of Glenwood. Happening July 22nd, 11 a.m. start. Keep tuned for to any of the platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're going to be doing videos, pictures, vlogs, day of, just to you know, show you guys what the event looks like and how it's come together. The work George is doing continues to impress. I'm sure some people on the group here have seen the pictures that have been posted. He's done an absolutely fantastic job on the Gate of Edoras. I'm working on the battle mats right now. Video 3 of the battle mat series should hopefully be up shortly after this video. We're going to be covering off the flocking and stuff, so these custom made mats are going to be what's used at the games day on the 22nd for Bog. So be here for the official release of George's stellar piece and be one of the first to play on it. So let us know you're coming, and we'd be happy to have you. So the OHA Battle Mat series has done very well. We're going to be focused on doing some more how-tos, terrain-based for sure. There has been some local interest in acquiring some of these battle mats, so I hadn't thought of opening it up to do purchases or anything like that. But in order to, you know, raise funds for the OHA, be it for you know, some of the cost of Bog as well as the tournament that we're going to be holding at KegsCon, I think that you know, I'd be happy to open up some of these for purchase. So if that's something that interests you, by all means reach out, take a look at the video once you see the final product, of course, when video 3 gets up, and then just send me a message if it's something that interests you. I think we'd be more than willing and happy to whip up a few mats. So July 15th, there's a doubles event in Hamilton by Tyler Sinstat, I believe. Apologize if that's wrong. And Barnaby. Once again, check out the OSBGL Facebook group for that event and information. Don't know if you can still register for it or not. Not sure. Anyways, check it out. That's it for events. That's all that's going on. I mean, there's more, but I don't want to sit here and talk about it all at once, especially since we talk about it every week. You guys know. So I'll update you next week with 3 more that I didn't cover here today. Sounds like a plan? Perfect. Just wanted to touch quickly on the recent changes with 8th edition 40K. And I know a lot of you are going to be saying, what does 8th edition 40K have to do with SBG? You know, I just wanted to touch on it because it's shown a flurry of activity, particularly on the SBG side. A lot of players flocking over to 8th edition. Some of them even going to the extent of selling or getting rid of trading SBG models. I would assume not all of their collection to get into 8th, but some stuff that they're not using. You know, I just wanted to touch on it and say keep positive, guys. I wouldn't worry too much about it. 40K, as great as a system or game that it is nowhere near as timeless as LOTR or the Hobbit. So that being said, you're always going to have those diehard core guys that are going to want to play SBG, and this is just a blip. It's a new fad. It's one of those things where everybody's jumping on it. Players are jumping on it. It actually makes me laugh because YouTube channels in general, channels that had SBG content and other content for other game systems that all of a sudden are jumping on the 40K bandwagon because it's going to get them views, it's going to get them likes, it's going to get them yada yada yada. I get that if that's your thing for doing a channel, and it's almost I would say like a business for you, then great, good on you, have fun with it. The OHA, that is not what we're all about, so I can promise you right now there's not going to be any flip-flopping. There's not going to be jumping over to 40K. You're not going to come on and find a 40K bat rep one of these days. This is strictly SBG, will always be SBG, but at the same time I think we got to be positive and understand that whatever is good for GW, i.e. 8th edition doing well, is going to translate to good things for us. It's going to allow the SBG team the freedom and time to focus on our hobby, as opposed to being pulled off to, let's say 8th edition 40K hadn't gone over as well as it did. I'm sure GW would be in damage control mode. So I think the core systems doing well is going to allow specialty games to survive and keep on trucking. At the end of the day, I think we have to come to terms with the fact that we are in fact a specialty game. We're no longer, we may be listed as one of the 3 cores, but I don't think that we are. We're not anywhere near 40K or Age of Sigmar with the re-release and the popularity. So now that being said, if the SBG team does give us an overhaul, we may very well creep back up to being one of the mains. But at the end of the day, I think we're a specialty range, we're a specialty game, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's going to allow better personality and better character in the game itself, because we're not catering it to the masses. It's being catered to a community, which I think is excellent. So keep that in mind. Keep positive and keep focused on SBG. And you can come find us here at the OHA anytime, and we'll give you your fix. So that being said, that's all I got for you. That's it. PMP's over. It's over already. Another week down. And now I got to start writing for next week, because that's how it works. You get done this one, and then you keep your pulse or your finger on the pulse of the community and try to figure out what you're going to talk about next week. So it's been a heck of a learning curve, but I'm really enjoying it. Hope you guys are enjoying the segment. By all means, chime in, comments, like if you want to. If you don't, that's cool. Share, that would be awesome. But again, not our focus. We're just here to put content up and hope you guys enjoy it. So thanks for Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Take care.